Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm Jeff Dover. With me is John Barbin. Let's talk football.
Yeah, we are reacting to the NFL Week 10, the week that the Lions had the crazy come from behind. Let's call it that week.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Oh boy! All right.
Yeah, there's some sloppy play this weekend and some crazy results. So it's
Now it was all over the map.
Yeah.
All right. So best ever, then worst ever, then some flowers. So I'll start if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my number 3 best ever were two. This category is just 2 playoff caliber games. So the Bengals and the Ravens. So I guess we're going to reach back a little bit here to the Thursday night game. The Bengals and the Ravens game and the Steelers and the Commanders game. Both of those games looked and felt like what I would hope the playoffs are going to look like. And just, I mean, the Ravens, every game with the Ravens is a track meet apparently. And and just some of the stats out of that game with how many passing yards those guys had. And I think Burrow went through for 4 touchdowns, and Jackson had 4, 750 yards in passing. You know what's crazy is the Ravens. It's just their defense is completely out the window now.
It's really amazing. Like it's because that was been their defining part of their football team for many, many years. So it's really weird to see it like this. No, you're right. Joe Burrow, 34 for 56 for 420 yards and 4 touchdowns. So
it is so sad that team just can't. It just can't. You got a quarterback that good, and you just can't. You can't win games. There's just that defense just fell apart in the second half, which was too bad because they had him. As soon as Chase fumbled in the Chase Brown fumbled in the third quarter, I knew the Ravens were going to win that game. The whole momentum shifted. Even though the Bengals had that huge comeback, it was to me, it was just obvious the Bengals weren't winning. And I think going for 2 was the correct call at the end of that game.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Don't give the ball back to Jackson because you're not winning. Because you couldn't stop him all second half. No reason to think you're gonna stop him then.
Yeah, no, like and it's it's at Baltimore, right? So you don't want it to go to overtime, and so you had a chance to win right at the end. So absolutely.
And their best player sitting on the bench, leave him there. Don't bring him back on the field.
Yeah.
Just like the game the previous week where the Buccaneers let Mahomes back on the field. Just don't do that. Go for 2 and live and die while their best player's not on the field.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, keep going.
And also in this category, the Steelers and the Commanders game.
Yeah.
That was just back and forth. It was just good on good. Everything about that game is what I want to see in an NFL game. The only thing is Highsmith got hurt and he might be out for a few weeks now. And that super sucked. But Wilson looks like he's all the way back. Good for Tomlin for putting him in and trusting that was going to be a good move. They're prepped for a run because they can go too deep at quarterback. They can survive injuries. Unlike the Lions with Hutchinson going down and they have no edge rush at all, this team has 2 premier edge rushers. So now, even though Highsmith is out at least for a couple of weeks here, you still have TJ Watt. You still have what's arguably the best pass rusher on the field. And Highsmith, would you put in the top 10?
Yeah.
Maybe just after Garrett, Bosa, and Hutchinson's not even there anymore, but he's somewhere in the top 10 as pass rusher. So you got both of those guys on the edge. You can survive a few weeks without one of them, whereas the Lions rush sort of just disappeared without Hutchinson. So
I think I'm going to push back on that one a little bit. Like on the broadcast for the Detroit-Houston game, also a good game, they commented all the time about Hutchinson being out and what's the pass rush and stuff. Stroud was sacked 4 times. So it's not...
I meant specifically the edge.
Well, I get that, but they're still getting pressure on the QB. So it's not like it's completely inept and he just has all day to throw. Yeah. So it's All
right. Well, we'll get to that later. Anyways,
so
both of those games were awesome.
2 playoff games. Daniels didn't have a great game, but he didn't really look like a rookie either. It was just that he still looked like a good QB. He was maybe not have a great day, but it wasn't like a rookie totally not seeing something or being blindsided and stuff. So that was, even though it wasn't his best game, he still looked poised.
Well, he didn't make any big mistakes, and they had to adapt to what the defense was giving them, and they ended up kind of running the ball a lot more and
Mhm.
getting their points on the ground instead of through the air. So I'll take both of those games every time.
Yeah, really good games. All
Yeah.
right, number 3 best thing I saw from the NFL this weekend was the Detroit and Houston secondary play. Now, this is also sort of it might have been a little bad quarterback, but whenever you have 7 interceptions in a game, that's crazy. Like that normally an interception is a real momentum killer and it swings everything the other way, but to have so many in a game and the fact that Detroit had 5 and still won is ridiculous. But that
Mhm.
was good on them. And some of them were really good interceptions too, like well played by the defense. So that's really good defense.
Yeah, the guy's name escapes me, but the Lions cornerback, he came out in the second half as Dan Campbell's being interviewed, and the
Yeah.
sideline reporter's like, "What do you think we need? What do you think you need to turn this
Yeah.
around?" He's like, "We got to get a takeaway." And as he's saying it,
Yeah.
he picks the guy Stroud off on the very first pass,
That
and
was
then the
awesome.
same guy got another one, the one
Mhm.
where he tracked it down in the end zone, which that was on Stroud. That
Mhm.
receiver
Yeah.
was
Carlton Davis the third. He
Yeah,
was the
Carlton
one that
Davis.
got the
And that receiver was wide open. I think it was Dell. And he
Mhm.
just put too much air on it or whatever it was. Now, maybe he was scrambling. It wasn't that easy to throw it more on a line, but he tracked it down. And then I think he got injured later in the game, or at least was out for a bit, which was unfortunate because I think he single-handedly turned that game around for the Lions. Like
Yeah.
that opening pick was everything for trying to take the momentum
You
back.
needed
Even
something. You needed
yeah,
something because Houston, I think, scored at the end of the half, and they were getting the ball back at the
yeah.
beginning of the second half, and so that was he was. There's a reason why Campbell was saying that because
Yeah.
they needed to make a
Even though
this,
Goff threw one right back,
yeah,
it at least gave them hope that they can do
yes,
something. They can start taking the ball, something, anything. Because
yeah.
man, that first half was terrible. All right, the second best thing I saw was the Patriots defense.
Ooh,
Now that might also be the Bears offense on the worst ever, but I'll give it to the Patriots defense. They had 13 tackles for loss, 9 sacks,
yeah, that's a lot.
and a pick. So I get you can always go either side of this. You can always go, well, that was just bad offense, but nobody else got 13 TFLs and 9 sacks against the Bears. So we're going to have to give this one to the Patriots defense. Now the Bears look like they're in a free fall. I think the entire coaching staff has to go,
Mm-hmm.
and the Patriots, the arrows look up. That if this is even partly how good this defense can be, and Drake May's he's looking the part. And sadly for the Bears organization, Drake May looked better than Caleb Williams in that game. As far
Wow,
as top picks from this year.
yeah. No, it's Chicago had 142 yards total on offense, so that is a two-part story, right? Which has got to be the defense from New England and the Chicago offense, probably a bit of both. But it's like the New England's defense has been good most of the season. There was a couple of games before we talked about what happened to their
They let him
defense,
down. Yeah.
So yeah. But no, it's so that was impressive. And that rolls nicely into my second best thing that I saw this weekend was Drake May's performance, right?
Yep. And that's why they get the shirt. Because that's his first NFL win, isn't it?
I believe
I think
so.
it is.
And it was but you called it early. It was, if you're declaring the season over, if you're just going with Brissett, may as well start this guy. I didn't mind it, not throwing him out there right at the beginnings. I think it takes the expectations off a little bit. And so that might make him play a little bit easier, but he's played well. And that was, that's a big win, like on the road and against the team that, had the number 1 pick. Like that was something. So good for them.
Yeah. And he looked poised back there. It's not like he put up sensational numbers or anything, but he was hitting the receivers he needed to hit. And in contrast to Caleb Williams, oh my God.
Yeah.
I could see Bears fans thinking we did it again. We picked the wrong guy again. But Tyson, our buddy, who's a big Bears fan, he's convinced it's just the organization. Doesn't matter who you put there. They're gonna mess it up. I saw a graphic I sent to him. All of the NFL's most recent quarterbacks who've passed for 4,000 yards for each team. And there's just a blank space for the Bears. They've never had a 4,000-yard passer ever in the franchise history.
Yeah.
So that's pretty pathetic given Purdy did it in second year with the Niners. Like it was just, it's just, oh God, the Bears, that team's a mess.
No, that's rough because Williams went 16 for 30 for 120 yards. He was sacked 9 times, right? So that's you're
You
not
can't
gonna
put all of those on him, but at least some of
but
them.
that's yeah.
I mean, 9. He's got to account for a couple of those.
No, but that speaks to Tyson's point, because it's not just a one player problem. Like, that's an organizational
Man, and all the
problem.
hype about them coming into the season. Oh, they're stacked. They've got Keenan Allen and Roma Dunze. They just didn't bother picking Joe Alt.
Yeah, that's right.
They could have. They
Yeah.
could have. And then you see guys like Panay Sewell and Tristan Wirfs. And
He's great. Panay Sewell, like they did a good job showing him and how mobile he is, like at that size, which is really impressive.
Harbaugh's what the Bears needed. And they don't. I don't know. Anyways, that team's a mess. We're not talking about them. We're finished. Yeah. This was all about the Patriots.
So Drake Maye, Patriots played the defense really good. Drake May's played well. Yeah.
What's interesting is, as we're saying this against the Bears, the Patriots showed up as how the Bears fans would imagine the Bears to be. Good offense.
Good point.
And a quality quarterback who just does what it takes to win.
Good defense, you mean? And
good defense and a quarterback.
Yes, like doesn't mess it up.
And that's
plays
what
within
they
the
were
system.
faced with. They were faced with what they hoped they had.
Yeah, New England beat them at their own Bears game.
Yep. All right. So the number one best ever thing I saw was the second half Lions performance in the second half of that game. I cannot give them anything for the first half. It's one of the worst halves of football you'll ever see. And they came out flat as a board. They didn't look like they were ready to play, because they have it in them. You saw it in the second half. But somehow in that first half, the Texans came in as if this was like everything. This was the whole season right in this one game. They came in with so much effort and intensity, and their defense was all over them, and they're missing key players. Like Will Anderson's out. They're both their top receivers are out, and they were just all over them. They had that run game completely bottled up. They couldn't go anywhere. And we're talking about the Lions. They're one of the best running teams in the NFL, if not the best. And they couldn't get a yard to save their lives. I couldn't believe how awful that first half was. And then by the end of the game, they actually had more rushing yards. And I thought, oh my, really? And that's just Gibbs started going off, and they finally got their act together. And I don't think it was scheme or anything. I think it was just effort.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good point. Like, when you look at the scoring summary, it was 23-7 Houston at the half, right? And normally in the NFL, when it's like that, like almost 2 touchdown lead, like you don't recover from that. You know what I mean? So that's it's and then in the second half, Detroit had touchdown, field goal to win at 26-23, so that was, you're absolutely right. It's a dominant second half.
And it was just the way the first half was going. This happens. It seems to happen more in the NFL than, I guess it happens in college too, where a team comes out flat. Like within 10 minutes, you're like, oh, they didn't show up today. Like, it's just, they're not here. Whatever is going on, something about their energy or whatever it is. And I thought to myself, so now I'm totally acting like just a fan who has no idea what I'm talking about. I just thought, you only do this 17 times in the whole year, and you can't get up for this one. Like, this really matters, because now they're completely in a battle for home field advantage too, right? So, but I mean, apparently the Lions are good enough to play half a game and still win. So that second half was impressive. The other thing, it's funny, this is my best ever, but I'm ripping on them a lot. Did you notice Goff kept throwing, the ball kept coming out of his hand down?
Absolutely.
That was weird.
He's had, because they made a big deal about his 80% completion percentage, and he had more touchdowns and incompletions and stuff. But he had multiple throws where he was throwing and it just went right into the ground. And I don't know what happened. I'm assuming like there was an injury or something, or like a finger or thumb, or because like it was surprising how many times like it would throw like right into the ground, like hit the bounce before it hit the receiver's feet. So
it was so bad on a couple of plays. I thought he did it. He grounded it
intentionally.
Intentionally, it was so bad. But on the replay, it just looked like, oh no, it just came out of his hand.
Funny. Yeah.
At least 4 or 5 times it came out of his hand, just going so low. And then a couple times, and we're talking about guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown who do not drop passes, and he would be throwing it at his ankles, making it almost impossible for him to catch. And Goff normally hits them right in the hands. So something was up with him. It's almost Yeah, whatever it was. And now they righted the ship. As bad as he played, they right the ship and they won. And well, let's jump to the field goal kicker too. I have him in my flowers section, but we got to talk about him right now. Jake Bates, 2 for 2. Both of those were 50 plus yards. Wasn't he? They said he was selling bricks last year.
Yeah, and it's from the Houston area, so it was
so he probably had some family and friends there, and you couldn't make those kicks any closer if you tried. There's got to be a mark on both uprights.
Yeah, the commentator was pretty funny because he's like, if they had an extra coat of paint on the uprights, I don't know if those would have gone through.
Unbelievable that they both looked like that. I mean, this was the best of both worlds for the Lions. They had a scare here.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was going to be motivational material if they lost this game for the rest of the year, saying, don't get ahead. Campbell would know how to use this. Like, don't get ahead of yourselves. You haven't earned anything yet. We're not even in the playoffs yet. Like this, look at how bad it can go.
Mm-hmm.
So they got a bad enough scare, but then they overcame it. So I think even Collinsworth was saying, I think he was sort of assuming they might lose the game when he was mentioning, like, this isn't a bad thing for them to come out and just get beat up this badly in the first half. Now, good for them for winning, but I think that's enough of a wake-up call that they kind of ended up with the best of both worlds in this one.
Yeah, no, and you were right. Like, it was the positive side from this, because we're still talking about the best ever, is that they played half a good game and won, right? Like they were that talented. That Houston was a good team. Like Stroud they looked good. And it looked like they really found something with their Dalton, the tight end for Houston, that was on the linebacker a lot. And so they're not a bad team, but like they shut them out in the second half, and they were playing a one half. A really good football was enough for them to win, which is not every team can do that. So it says a lot about the quality of that team. They were
overcoming 5 interceptions is
that was historically like that. They said that hasn't happened since the 70s. So that was unbelievable. That was crazy. Yeah. All right. So the number one best thing that I saw this week in the NFL was Cincinnati / Barb and Hopes back up again. Right? Cincinnati can do it. Cincinnati could be our AFC playoff team and give Kansas City a run for their money.
But they lost.
What?
But they lost.
No. But listen, but it was by 1. They went for 2 at the end. But like it was Burrow had over 400 yards, and so I'm declaring that still looking good and could possibly make a run in the playoffs.
Okay, well, I appreciate your optimism. It killed me. It's killing me. All right, so we got to talk about the Bengals for a bit here. He is got to be top 3 quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who you
Jamar Chase is amazing. Like, that Chase doesn't hurt either.
Complete monster.
Yeah.
Their run game's a joke. And he still kept them in that game. And their defense played a half a game. And just exit stage left in the second half of that game. The Ravens never have a defense.
No.
So it's just, I can't believe how bad their pass defense is. It's just horrifically bad. But I don't know. Maybe that's one of the only teams they can't beat. We'll see. We'll see what we end up with here. But all right.
I guess I was also pretty happy about it because we had Cincinnati plus 6.5. So that bet cashed.
Well, it was great that we cashed the bet. So yeah. So. I think you're just rose-colored glasses.
It still counts as a win
because we won
me.
The bet. Yeah. But I appreciate your optimism. I guess they can still make the playoffs.
It's too bad our bets don't count for them in the standings.
Yeah, that would be great. All right, moving on to worst evers.
Yes.
Okay, so number 3 worst ever thing I saw was the kicking game in the NFL.
A lot to choose from.
10 missed field goals, or might have been more. 2 blocked field goals, 2 muffed punts.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then the Steelers fake punt in their own end zone, or their own end of the field. That had zero chance of. What is Tomlin thinking? Amazing they won that game after that bad of a play. But the Chiefs blocking the Broncos field goal for the win there. I mean the Chiefs, can you say about the Chiefs? They win every which way possible. They just never look that good, but they just keep winning.
That one was rough. That was Denver really should have won that game. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not like it blocked like a 60-yarder. Like, it was a
No.
completely makeable field goal. And it looked like there was 2 or 3 guys that could have blocked that or did block it. You know what I
I
mean? So,
rewatched that about 4 times, and whatever the Broncos lineup, the way they blocking scheme was designed,
mhm.
on the left side, there was 2 guys with 4 guys over them, 4
Yeah.
Chiefs over 2 Broncos. And I had to stop and pause it, and I counted it up, and I was looking again, and I thought, how did the coach not call timeout? How do you not notice you've got 4 guys over 2 here?
Yeah.
And they just flooded right through that side.
Yeah.
And I just thought, is this, did nobody notice this? Is there nobody having eyes on how badly they were aligned in that moment?
Mhm.
Anyways, so that just seemed like just a coaching error, or that somebody's missing something there. That can't possibly be their normal alignment where they have 4 guys over 2.
Mhm.
That just seemed wrong. And then the Saints blocking a Falcons field goal, which ended up being critical the way that game turned out. And then just the muffed punts. The Commanders muffed the punt. Did you see it hit him right in the face?
Yeah.
Hit him in the face mask. Like, I get it. You and I aren't NFL players, but that guy is.
Yeah.
He's supposed to catch that.
Yeah.
No one's even allowed to touch him until he has an opportunity to catch. And hits him right in the face.
Mhm.
And then the 49ers rookie muffed a punt. And I don't know. He might not be back there anymore. And then continuing with the 49ers, which might have the worst special teams in the NFL. 3 missed field goals. And, oh boy. I mean, and then the other side of that is he kick the game winner.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't have needed a game winner because they should have had 9 more points on the board.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's the special teams. We were praising special teams earlier in some of the earlier episodes because we've never watched football at a time where making a 60-yard field goal is as commonplace as it is now. Like, people regularly go for 50-plus field goals. It's not even a hesitation. Like, it's not even a concern. Whereas before, when you went for a 50-yarder, that was a big deal. So, like, now 60-yarders are common, 50-yarders are very common. So, but boy, when you can't hit a 40-yarder or a 30-yarder, or it gets blocked, like, then it really stands out because you know how achievable they are now. So,
yeah, I was listening to Guy Haberman's podcast. He's a play-by-play guy on the FS1 for the college games, and but he's on the 49ers beat too. And he pointed out that before they had Jake Moody, their kicker Robbie Gould just wasn't good for longer than 50. So he said something I never even considered, given you keep pointing out that now all of a sudden it's commonplace to hit 50-plus yard field goals. It changes the way you call plays in that zone, because you're thinking in terms of back when they had Gould was money from inside 50, but you're not even considering a 57-yarder. So you change the way you're either going for it on 4th down. You're trying to get closer. But with Moody, he has such a big leg. Now, as an offensive play caller, you're thinking, and he can hit it from 60.
Yeah.
So you might not be as aggressive with trying to get closer in that area of the field.
When you have like a 3rd and 10 or a 3rd and 7, you know, when you're in that field goal range, you could run the ball to put it in the side that's good for the kicker, right? Versus before, you're like, we need 8 yards here, otherwise we can't do it. So it absolutely would change what you're calling. So that's a great call.
Or you're even calling the offense knowing you have 3rd and 4th down there.
Yeah,
because you
exactly.
might, whatever. Yep. Anyways, man, just special teams messes all over the place, but specifically in the kicking game, like just the kickers themselves.
So the number 3 worst thing from the NFL for me this weekend was the Jets hype really taking another nosedive. It's Arizona's good, but not that good. Like they handled them, and all this talk about, we talked about it in our episodes before the season started. I just wasn't sure that Rodgers was going to be good this year. And man, 6 points against Arizona, not good. So all that, I feel Devontae Adams going there to make a difference. It's not making a difference. So
how much does he want to go back to Vegas or anywhere else?
Yeah, no. So it's because Arizona looked like the significantly better team, and we're talking about the Cardinals. So
I don't know. The Cardinals are coming on at the right time.
Yeah, they are.
Murray looks great.
He does.
And Harrison, I mean,
Yeah,
Con-
Harrison's going to be good. Like it's tough to break in as a rookie wide receiver because it's a pretty steep curve, but like he's going to be really good.
How many running backs, if you had to start an NFL team, would you take above James Conner right now? Not many.
I can't really think of any of his.
I mean, maybe obviously McCaffrey, maybe Henry.
Maybe Connor's great. Like, and his whole story is amazing.
Yes,
right? Because he had cancer before and
fellow
stuff.
Cancer
like,
survivor. I'll take that.
Right?
But he, just
no, maybe Breece Hall.
No,
yes,
he's a beast. He can catch too. I don't know that I as over the top talented as Murray is, like the Connor piece of that offense is so important. And then McBride is quickly becoming one of the best tight ends in the league. Holy smokes. That team's dangerous right now. I would not be betting against them. All right. My number 2 worst thing I saw, well, we kind of covered it, is the Bears and the Jaguars offenses. Now the Bears, I don't even know what you want to say. We've already talked about it, that they're just a mess. And I think this is an organizational problem and a coaching problem. And you can give a little bit of an excuse to the rookie QB. You just can't expect him to be that good. And then the Jaguars, same thing. It's, Lawrence is out. We don't know. He might actually be out for the season. And Mac Jones is awful, just awful. I think they had, I don't know, maybe less than 200 yards. It was terrible.
Oh, yeah. The Jaguars had 143 yards, 3 turnovers, and Minnesota edged them out in time of possession, 42 minutes to 17.
How bad is that?
It's really bad.
And that's, again, so that's their backup, right? Mac Jones.
Yeah.
But we have seen there are multiple teams in the league who have a good backup. We're talking
about Jones started for the Patriots back in the day. Like
his fall is been epically bad.
Yeah.
Like from where he started. He made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And now he looks like he shouldn't even be on an NFL roster.
Yeah.
And then you compare that to the Steelers can go 2 competent quarterbacks deep.
Green Bay.
Yes, Green Bay, the Colts. Like there's some teams here who the backup, you have to think twice. You're not just immediately betting against them with the backup.
Make the argument for the Patriots just because they had Brissett did something and then May.
Yeah, okay, you're stretching it there. I wouldn't do that one. But man, the Jags are, what a mess. That team is, I don't know if the coach has to go. Oh, well, he's probably going to go. But I can't believe how badly they've fallen off.
Yeah.
And I think Lawrence has been more injured more often than we think. Because the ascent, and when the arrows were all pointing in the right direction, especially after that big come from behind win. And he's always had the talent. There's no reason to think he was going to be this bad. So, and we know that throughout the last year or two, there's all these little injuries have been creeping up, and he's been in and out, and then he's had knee braces on, and his shoulder's been bugging him. And now it sounds like he's just done for the year. So my guess is it's been bad enough that it's really throwing off his quality of play, but not so bad that he's just out on the IR. So it's kind of like that fine, like either get healthy or whatever it is, but you can't be out here at whatever 60%, 70%. It's just not quite bad enough to get him off the field. But then I guess the coaches and the team knows, look what you have behind him. Yeah. This is the only good thing about the Jags. Those uniforms are great.
Yeah,
those white helmets. That's way better than those black helmets. So.
That's where I don't want to put you on the spot, but where are we at with a QB counter? Do you have an updated number?
55. Yeah,
55 quarterbacks have played in the NFL this season.
I'm keeping track of all 54. We're up to 54.
Okay, 54.
So, because I think I already have him as in from earlier in the year.
Okay.
Yeah. So there we go. It's a lot. It's a lot. All right.
Okay.
What's
So the number two worst thing that I saw from the NFL this weekend was Moody missing 3 field goals. So we've already covered it, was the bad kicking. And it just made it more apparent because the people are hitting 50-yarders all the time. So when you miss and it's just missed, like just straight up missed field goal, like from the 44 yards. Now, hats off to Moody. We'll give him some flowers because it was a 44-yard field goal. That was the third one he missed. And then the one he hit to win the game was a 44-yard field goal, pretty much from the same hash too. Like it's the same side. So that, good mental fortitude to recover from that. And
He just snuck that one in too.
Yeah, I know, but it would have been hard not to think like, oh man, this would be 4 if I missed it. But super disappointing to see the 3 missed field goals, especially when you can make them from all over the field, and especially for us because that cost us the cover for the bet. So that's why it stings just a little extra more.
Jesus, and they used a 3rd round draft pick on him.
Really?
Yeah, the Niners are pretty. They can hit some late round picks, and boy, do they ever make some awful higher round picks. Like, think about it. The Lions kicker was selling bricks, and he hit two unbelievably pressurized field goals to win that game. And they spent a 3rd rounder on Moody, and it's just. I hope they learn their lesson. All teams should learn their lesson. Don't use a draft pick on a kicker.
Is selling bricks above or below finding someone from a parking lot?
I don't know. It's similar. Depends where the parking lot is. All right. So the number one worst thing I saw this week was the city of New York.
Woo!
The Giants.
Start spreading the news.
The Giants and the Jets. I have Louise's blessing to put the Giants in this category. She thinks they're horrific. I told her we bet on the Giants.
Well,
and
when
she
you
said,
lose to Carolina.
Yes. And I told her I bet on the Giants. She's like, why would you do that? And we're talking about a diehard Giants fan who can't believe we actually bet on their team.
So we thought they were a better team than Carolina, but not that day.
Clearly not. That was laughably bad on both teams' parts. There's just nothing going on with either of these teams. Rodgers is not the answer. Daniels is not the answer. Daniel Jones is not the answer. The amount of money spent on these two guys, like this is just, these franchises are a mess right now. They don't know how to build a roster. Jones Shane is for sure going. And I think part of it, I mean, whether or not he was for sure going to go, just the media hype around Hard Knocks and just hearing him talk about how he wanted to build this roster, it's just a joke. I can't see how they're going to keep him as a GM. Also, I don't know where to even go with the Jets and how much of a mess that team is. So they're done. This is it. The season's over for both of them. And we already knew that for the Giants. I don't know why people were hanging on to this hope about the Jets. I actually thought Devontae Adams was going to do something there, but him and Rodgers look like they've never met each other before and have never, like this connection they had in Green Bay, which was obvious, is completely absent on this team. So it's so bad. This team is such a mess that you could take a quarterback receiver duo who I think have a bunch of QB receiver records. And now they look like they have no idea how the other guy plays. What is he doing? I don't know. What is he doing? That's how bad they are. They can break that duo up to a point where they have no idea how like they're not on the same page. I don't think they ever will be. It's a mess.
No, it's rough. And we picked the Giants. The Giants, we I don't know. I'd still probably feel like they're a better football team than Carolina, but like the not that day, and it's hats off to Carolina. That's why they're getting the shirt today. Like and Chuba Hubbard, we're going to talk about him in a second, but like he played fantastic. And it was something about I think getting benched, because this has happened a couple times before where I don't know. It's just something about when Bryce Young, when you get benched and you come back and the expectations are less or something. I don't know what it is, but he's
less pressure.
Yeah, it's like less pressure. It's something like it seems to be.
He didn't turn the ball over.
No, it seems to have done something, which is I don't know know where that would come from. But
I watched that whole game. He was the better QB. He didn't make any mistakes.
15 for 25 or 126 yards. He had a TD. He was only sacked once. It's not.
He had 30 or 40 yards rushing too.
He had 2 runs for 30 yards. So
a couple important runs, and he managed the game the way you need him to manage the game, especially with Hubbard going off.
Yeah.
So, anyways, the Jets and the Giants, just New York. Too bad for the fans in New York. Your teams. Not only do they look horrifically bad, I don't see the way out for either of these teams.
Yeah. No,
it's going to be years before these teams get their act together. And the other sad thing is this might waste Malik Neighbors' entire rookie contract.
Yeah. The worst thing that I saw in the NFL, this is probably a bit harsh because they won, but it was just Sam Darnold's 3 interceptions and could have been way more, because we've been praising Sam Darnold on this program for several weeks now, having a resurgence in his career and playing well. and on a really good team that had a good defense, and it was just such a celebration. And this was a real strong revisit to Sam Darnold of old, like in the Jets and the it's not happening and missing people and should have been, more interceptions. And it's just, it really came out of nowhere. And so that was, and if it was anyone else other than Jacksonville, they wouldn't have won this game, but so,
right. That's
so
how bad. I mean, they didn't get a touchdown.
No. And it's really that was just sad to,
and he was throwing them in the red zone.
Yeah.
Besides the 3 that were picked, another one was picked and got taken back because of a penalty, and at least 1 or 2 more were right in the defender's hands and dropped. So this besides if the penalty didn't happen, this should have been a 6 interception game. He could have one-upped Goff. It should have been a 6 interception game. So I'm wondering if the Vikings fans are worried that this is Darnold regressing to, this is why Darnold has been a backup for all these years. Like is this just who he is? And it was just sort of bad teams and a little bit of good fortune in the first few games, because man, that was one of the worst performance. That was probably the worst QB performance of the weekend. And that's saying something.
It is, because there were some other ones that were really like
Goff
Williams
put in a stinker. Williams put in a stinker.
Yeah.
And that was bad.
Yeah.
All right.
Flowers and Cole.
All right. Well, I already gave Drake May his flowers for his number 1 or his first win. So I'll move on. The uniforms. So the Panthers blacks looked awesome.
How about Houston?
Yes. That battle red is always, I mean, my Houston helmet, I don't know where it is, but I purposely got the red helmet wherever it is back there.
It was the alternate one too, with the horns.
I know, and it was the alternate one too. I'll take either, but the battle red has to be the color. Apparently there's a petition with the fans. Really? I don't know why teams go to this dull blue. Yeah. It's like the old Broncos, like what you have behind you there, the bright blue. Yeah. And then they switched. Now I get it. The new one's kind of classy looking a little bit with the darker blue, but that one, I don't know. That one jumps off the screen for me. The battle red for the Texans jumps off the screen for me. We already talked about the Jacksonville white helmets. I don't like the black helmet. That's just a way better look. And the Panthers black, I wish that was their look. That looked awesome. Yeah. So yeah, good for the secondary uniforms there.
Yeah, my first flowers go to Chuba Hubbard. I remember seeing him in Oklahoma State. He was great. And this is one of the best I've ever seen him in the NFL. Chuba Hubbard from
Canada,
Alberta. And so, super happy to see him play well. And listen, when you have a bit of a running game, it makes everything better. So that's
he had 153 yards running. And I think he had 170 total yards. He had
228 carries, 153 yards, and a TD. And he also had 4 catches
for 16 yards. So 170 yards from scrimmage from your running back. That's good. That's like a McCaffrey really type of player you got there. Yep. Speaking of McCaffrey, used to play at Carolina. All right. So that was my other. That's the other flowers I was going to give out. And then Jake Bates, I've already given him his flowers. The kicker for the Lions, just coming through with the 2 biggest kicks of the weekend.
Yeah, that was it for me too. No.
All right. Well, that was, I don't know. There were some pretty interesting games this weekend. Just the Lions, man. That game stole the show for good and bad. That was just all over the map, that game. All right. So stay tuned. Come back to the channel for our picks and previews of the NFL and our picks and previews for college for this coming week. See you soon.